Well, the celebration's over. It's on to the 2025 season for Ohio State. That's it. 6 days. That's all you get. That's Justin Zwick, Bobby Carpenter, Jeremy Birmingham. I'm Austin Ward. We are at Roosters. It is a fun, casual joint, and this is still going to be a fun, casual conversation because it was just a week ago that the Buckeyes won the national championship.
Wild.
And then, Bob,
seems like forever ago.
They had to immediately turn around and deal with the transfer portal and the NFL draft deadline, and, oh, yeah, their defensive coordinator left for Penn State.
Life comes at you fast. And there was a lot of things that were happening quickly. I don't think Ryan got to enjoy it very much at all, probably outside of about 1 hour on Saturday when he was sitting there. And the reception for him was phenomenal.
Sunday, yeah.
Or Sunday, yes. But that hour on Sunday, it was
Monday night he had a good time too.
Yeah, but then as soon as he got back here, it was, hey, who's trying to leave or who's trying to get poached to leave? Interestingly, then your D coordinator, we heard the rumblings of Oklahoma and then Notre Dame, and I wasn't overly worried about those. And Penn State came into the mix, and offering large bags of cash, and the internal friction and everything. I'm curious as to that.
I mean, no one would know that better than you.
If I was going to ask,
if it's real, you're inside of that building.
You
more
say
than
no one would know that better than me.
Other than people who are,
I think Ryan
on staff, other than people who are actually on the coaching staff.
Any of us, you would know the best.
Other than anybody who's not directly has associate head coach or assistant head coach or assistant coach as their professional title, I don't know that anyone would have a better sense of that than you. So let's just dive into that, Bob, because that's what the people want to talk about. After October 12th, right? Ohio State goes out to Oregon. Yeah. They lose by a point. The defense played like garbage. Everything changed after that point. The defense got way better. Was there something else that happened in that time frame that upset the apple cart so much that it couldn't be repaired? Because I don't believe that that's true.
I don't think that that's the case. I think there was conversations had. When you're getting,
tough ones.
When you're getting paid,
millions of dollars,
top flight coordinator money,
$2.2 million.
Yeah, top flight coordinator money. You expect top flight performances against top flight teams. And it's like, hey, it's great when we go out there and blank Purdue, and that's fun, and we can beat up Northwestern and Wrigleyville, and it's all well and good. But you're getting paid. I would say Ryan Day, you don't get paid to go beat. It used to be Indiana, and they were good this year, but you don't get paid to win those games. You get paid to win the big ones.
Yeah.
And so with that, the coordinators, you get paid to coordinate in the big ones. And so I think there was a conversation, probably about that. Let's start winning these big games. We can't be giving up 30-plus points with the talent that we have and how much you're getting paid. And especially how it looked. It's one time I think there's some fluky stuff and different things. Let's figure out why we're not playing as well as we should.
Or why you looked completely unprepared that day against
Yes. And listen, in Jim's defense, the defense looked pretty tremendous from that point on.
100%.
I think there is a little bit of – I just want to put out – there's some revisionist history I think that's going on. If we're shifting this to a Ryan Day and Jim Knowles conversation, when we were talking about the re-engineering after October 12th, all of what we were discussing was the disconnect between
Larry
the
Johnson
secondary and the pass rush and Jim Knowles and Larry Johnson. So I think all these things can be connected.
I don't know why Day got conflated into that as much as he has.
Well, because I think he probably had a conversation with him about what needed to happen. No, it was probably an uncomfortable conversation, but I doubt either one of those parties left there thinking that was it. This is.
I can't wait to get out of here.
Regardless of what happens,
because the defense got way better after that.
I mean, look what happened.
Yeah, and Ryan was very complimentary about that. It wasn't hey, yeah, we're good, but just wait.
Yeah.
He was very complimentary talking about how good that defense was. The players were very complimentary talking about Jim Knowles. There were a lot. What's amazing is there was some changes made in the back end, a little bit coverage wise. But a lot of that stuff was changes that were made up front. Mm-hmm. And so, if the head coach comes in and issues an edict, sometimes that absolves the coordinator of saying, hey, I know that we maybe want to do this at this position group.
Yeah, but he said it.
The head coach, who's in charge of all of us, this isn't just coming from me. Dad's in the room now, and he says this is how we're going to play.
So we're just postulating here. This is just theory 101. Perhaps a guy who is revered and looked at as the head coach of the defense for the last 2.5 years prior to that
Ryan Day has called him that.
2.5 years up to that moment had been left alone to do what he wanted, and then the head coach comes in and says, "Hey, no, we're changing things." Now, I think that the changes that happened were things that were actually what Jim Knowles wanted to happen previously.
Yes.
Long story short, the conversation is there's this developing rift between him and Ryan Day. I just don't buy.
I don't know if
now I do, and I want your opinion on this because I've also heard that maybe in the last month of the season, the playoff run, that Ryan was a little less Ryan and a little more Urban in the last month plus, and that the way he operated in the building was a little bit of a change for people, and maybe they were like, well, I don't know if we want to be, because you get used to somewhat casual Mondays, right?
Well,
and then they don't exist anymore.
Well, I mean, you're playing for a national championship, and the head coach, I wouldn't say his job was on the line by any stretch.
It was. Let's be honest. If they would have lost to Tennessee, it absolutely was.
If they'd have laid an egg that first
I
game.
would have said if they would have laid an egg.
Yeah.
If they would have gotten embarrassed at home.
Yeah.
For the second week in a row type thing.
Yeah, like your guys don't go out and play hard, which looking back now is a ludicrous thought to think that was the case.
know.
But like if your guys looked unmotivated and unprepared, that I think would have been something where the conversation could have been started. Like, has he lost the team? Which it's not even a play. Like, it's saying that just sounds so absurd now based upon everything that has transpired.
Sure.
But
did you see that shift?
I mean, there was a palpable like
urgency.
I wouldn't say it was tension. With Urban, there was tension in there a lot.
Intentional tension.
With Ryan, I would say it was more of a sense of urgency. Like, it's time to go. Yeah. Like, this is the team. Let's get it going. The players are bought in, and let's go roll. And I don't think that there was it didn't feel. I can't imagine that there was any type of like noticeable oppression upon those coaches that like they hadn't felt or been around. I mean, you got to remember these guys coach college football. This isn't like
they all wanted to win a national championship.
Yeah, it wasn't
and they
like
did.
Yeah,
so like it worked.
Yes, but it wasn't like these guys were coaching in
the dark ages,
European football like over there, and then all of a sudden like oh gosh, this is a lot different. Like these guys stay.
You guys are serious over here.
They get up. They
you
walk
want
in
us to be what?
They walk in when it's dark and they leave when it's dark. Like that had always been the case.
That's because of daylight savings.
Well, it's also just a function of the fact that we have short daylight hours in the winter, so there wasn't a whole lot of daylight as well. But I think the D-line stuff. If you look at what Larry did or what Jim did at Oklahoma State versus here, there is a noticeable difference with the deployment of 3 down versus Ohio State being exclusively 4 down. Now, I had heard that was looking to change next year.
Certainly,
and
the conversations we had with Ryan Day and Jim Knowles, and like even on the recruiting front, like they were definitely moving away from being exclusively 4 down.
Maybe that's because Jack, and JT were gone. Like you have some different body types and some things that you can do now. And you don't have like these veteran big-time recruit guys that are going to go in there, And so I think a lot of that stuff was in motion already. So it wasn't like Jim's like, hey, this guy came in and told me what to do, and we haven't been doing what I wanted to do last 6 months anyway, so I'm leaving. Like I don't see that being the case. And also the fact, like, I would say this in an endearing way, like Jim Knowles is like a different dude. Yeah. I literally made the comment to someone walking down the hall as they were cleaning stuff up. I'm like, if Jim wasn't coaching football, I feel like he might be maybe like a British literature teacher, a museum curator, like just
like a Zen master who has those little things with the sand and the little rakes.
I think he's just gonna go open a cigar shop.
Like he just is a different guy. Like he's not your typical. I don't want to use like I'd say it's the greatest term of endearment, like meathead football player.
Mm-hmm. I think there's so many.
He's more of a schemist.
There's so many things out there that are being thrown around as far as like this is what happened. And I don't want to
listen to any of these nonsense from people.
No one's gonna know everything that happened.
I heard in that players only meeting they tarred and feathered Jim Knowles.
I mean, it's also a thing.
It's also the fact where Penn State was offering him $1 million more a year than Ohio State.
Well, and I think Ohio State was willing to get close to that.
It's some of Penn State's contract offer. Again, you have to. It's mathematical semantics. They have to pay $1.36 million in the buyout, so that inflates Penn State's total. So if you get wrapped up in 3.1 versus 2.75, like okay, Ohio State is offering you this, and you don't have to pay back the money. Ohio State was close enough that it was basically the same.
Yeah, and that's we're going to make you the highest paid D coordinator in college football. And that's. I mean, at some point, I sit there I start figuring out what's the opportunity cost of those dollars deployed elsewhere. And I think Jim Knowles is really good, but is there someone else you could bring in, someone like rework your staff? Those dollars could be placed somewhere else in the program. Like, is he that much far and away better than anyone else? Like, I've played for a lot of good D coordinators. Like, I think Jim is really good, but he doesn't really recruit. He doesn't really want to recruit.
And we've had a run of really good defense coordinators at Ohio State in the last
100%.
25 years. So
And
it's like
he also
they leave and they move on, and we fill that spot, and we still have the players that Ohio State gets.
and that's the
And
thing.
that's what it comes down to.
And he's a Pennsylvania guy, so there is that element too. Like, and I don't know if he grew up in like Penn State was kind of the team for him. Maybe
He's from Philadelphia. He went to St. Joe's Prep. He's
the
obviously
streets
a
of
Philly guy.
Philadelphia,
in
bruised and battered.
In the previous eras of college football, especially at Ohio State under Urban Meyer, like if a coordinator was there more than 3 years, that guy probably wasn't very good. And
Well, because those guys were generally leaving. Because this
They usually
morning
went to
to go be head coach.
it was brought up. They're like,
That's
well, you know, he was looking last year at Duke. I'm like, but that's for a head job.
Yeah.
Like that's you.
That's
That's
different.
a promotion.
yeah, the fact that it is a lateral
Because
move,
I don't know if there are any lateral coordinator moves off of Ohio State.
yeah, that's why I think it feels so bad to people.
Yeah.
And then the timing of it obviously happening immediately after.
Or before.
And
Or
well,
the day of the celebration.
I'm going to at least give a little. I don't think that was Jim Knowles' idea.
Mm-mm.
I think that was probably James Franklin's idea to make sure that they took
Stole some of the day.
stole a little bit of.
By the way, you're going from Ryan Day to James Franklin. So in no world or realm,
So
you
that's
could coach a great game and still lose because he just screws it up.
But it's
for
also-
you.
that's the part that I think is absolutely ludicrous. So if we started this and Burma's asking about friction and difficult conversations between Jim Knowles and Ryan
Feel
Day.
the tension.
If you think working for Ryan Day was bad, wait until you get to State College and you're working for James Franklin, the biggest idiot in college football.
Easy. Mario Cristobal takes offense to that.
Yeah.
Well, look at all the people who are leaving. Tom Allen's like 1 year. Nope, I'm out of here. I'm jumping.
His family's down
Just take a look at the number of coordinators, the revolving door on both sides of the football. So if you think you're getting a breather and a reprieve to go work for James Franklin, I got news for Jim Knowles there. You're jumping out of a frying pan into an absolute boiling pit of water.
If you think like the tension, like an expectation here, I mean, you just won a national title. You've won all these top 5 games. I mean, James Franklin, yes, they made it to the semi,
Yeah.
but they had literally
Yeah.
the best path to be able to get there.
Also, their defense was already good. So
the
that's
defense has
it's
never
not
been
even
their
the problem.
No, it's not.
They didn't have a single
And-
receiver reception in that last game.
And Jim Knowles has acknowledged himself multiple times that it takes 3 years or so for his defense to get to the point where it works in a program. And so you're walking into a situation at Penn State where it is going to be natty or bust in Happy Valley this upcoming season.
Can't wait to hear that all offseason.
That puts a ton of pressure on a guy that is not known for really making a quick turnaround on defense. Now, Ohio State's defense was way better in 2022 than it was in 2021.
Well, but
But that's because it had a bunch of guys returning, and the guys that had finally started to that played a lot during the embarrassment of 2021 that had figured things out. It just seems when you look at it from a football perspective, it is nonsensical. So clearly, it was either about just money, feeling disrespected, or just being a guy that likes to tinker. There's some people who just like to build.
Yeah, there are builders. Yeah, and then there's guys that are really good at maintaining, and some people it's tough to be good at both. I mean, I said Jim Knowles is like a different cat too. Like for me to try to define what his why is, there's probably, and here's the reality: there could be slivers of everything of what we said.
Well, that's
right.
probably
That's right.
Like and I don't think there's one definitive reason. Like, well, it's this or it's that or it's, the reality is though, like, I don't know. They talked about his fiance being from Oklahoma, but then being willing to leave. Like, dude, you're going to state college.
Yeah.
I mean, if
You're going to get her back there,
college.
like you're going to state
It's a
college.
little bit more difficult to get to Happy Valley than it is to
all
Columbus.
we've heard
from
for
anywhere.
5 years is that James Franklin's wife was like, "Can we get the hell out of Happy Valley?" So it is an interesting.
That's why she doesn't even live there.
But there was a question, that's being now postulated, thrown around by Knowles' agents and all that stuff, or his representatives, that he tried to renegotiate his contract with Ohio State the week before the championship game, and it's like, why?
Not
would
sure
you
that's
do
the
that?
time for it.
Why would
It's
you?
not the time for it.
No.
Like if I was, if I was in,
If
Ohio
there was
State's
like if Ohio
position-
State had offered him a deal and like you signed it before that, like okay, that's fine. Like Mel Tucker, you grab that thing.
Yeah.
Also, who are your agents that are like, you know what, you should lock this in right now, and don't worry, if you might have more leverage if you win a national championship, don't do that. Like, that's just horrible advice.
Well, and they just signed a 3-year deal
in January.
Yeah.
in January, right? So,
Anyway,
I mean, granted, we had a
It
great
is
year.
perplexing.
it is. It's perplexing, but I think there's elements of what you said as well, Berm. If Jim Knowles was hired to do a job, and he did it.
Okay.
He helped deliver a national championship. He gave Ohio State 3 really good years. The pieces are in place. The foundation is in place. That's fine. You tip your hat to that. You can definitely think it's odd and strange that he's jumping to Penn State and going to compete against Ohio State directly next year. I would
That's
agree
what
with
the
that.
irony of all of it is.
Well,
I mean, it's.
That he's going to be back in the horseshoe.
I know that Penn State's unrivaled, but for a long time that was a rivalry.
It was a competitive series.
Yeah.
And it still is.
Yeah.
So that's what someone is now going to have to replace Jim Knowles. Berm, you've got a lot of ideas.
I do. Are we going to talk about this on the first half of the show, or should we?
Let's
Yeah,
save
we'll talk about the players coming back in the second half. How about that?
Okay, so I mean, I think that there's a number of guys out there that make a lot of sense. Number one is that the reality.
First of all, do we go in? Is it internal or external? You think?
I think that there's options on both sides. I want to say
There were
this,
good people
There's
on
good
both sides.
good candidates on both sides.
but the idea that Ohio State has to hire from within is false. Ryan Day and Ohio State have leverage. They can hire. If we put up a sign outside of this Roosters on Henderson Road that said hiring Ohio State defense coordinator interviews inside, it'd be wrapped around the building. There'd be coaches.
The line would be all the way back to 315.
Would the people be coming for the Roosters or for the?
Both.
For
If
the
you,
both.
while
Onion
you're
feathers.
waiting for your
You're
interview,
coming for
you
their
get onion feathers. Like it's
onion
tomorrow.
feathers.
Defensive coordinator interviews. Appetizer Thursday. Onion feathers.
Boom.
Ohio
$2.
State is
Be a big win.
at the top of the food chain and would be regardless if they won a national championship last week or not. Ryan Day can hire whoever he wants, essentially. He's going to have a blank check to go get the best guy for the program. So now I think the question is, you have to try to balance what's best for the 2025 Buckeyes and what's best for the program long term, right? Because I do think that there is an argument.
Continuity with this defense is important. But
I think
as
there's
long
an
as that
argument.
person is good.
I think there's an argument to be made that for 2025, an internal hire makes sense. Because there is so much turnover with the roster, because there are so many guys already in flux. If you say, Caleb, are you fine with McArary or Tim Walton being your defense coordinator? And Caleb says, absolutely. Then I think you say, cool, we're going to go find another guy to bring in and complement Matt or Tim, and they're going to be a co-defense coordinator. I think that works. Notre Dame seems like they're very likely going to hire Chris Ash to be the co-defensive coordinator with Mike Mickens over there. And I think that is a...
They made Mike Mickens, really. That's my man Mick.
Well, I mean, if you see what Penn State just did with Anthony Poindexter, the guy that they were looking at when Jim Knowles didn't seem like a reality, Poindexter's their safeties coach. They're going to give him a new contract. He's going to be a part of what they do. So I think that there's a world where you can have both.
Yeah.
Because you're going to have to bring in somebody else.
They call
regardless.
that middling it, Berm.
Sure, but you have to bring in somebody else regardless.
Not
You're
diddling
you
it.
need to
That's
hire-
a completely different thing.
You need to hire another guy. So,
Well, yeah, because you have the ability
and
to
you get
hire.
and you
You
get
have
to
a spot
hire,
to
and you
fill
get to
now.
actually.
By the
have an
way, we have
additional-
limitless coaches, so
and you get to actually have an additional recruiter on your staff now because you were without one for the last 3 years. So there is an added benefit.
So let me ask you, so do you do like, because I don't think that there was a sheer coincidence that Ryan Day
Nothing
talked
Ryan Day
about-
does is a
Made,
talked about
made a
that.
lot more sense.
There is nothing
Come
that man
afternoon
says
yesterday.
into a microphone that is on accident.
Yes, they talked about the
Brightest
up-
young minds.
up and
Brightest young-
coming
yeah.
brightest young mind, Matt Guerreri, which he is. Guerreri does know that defense probably about as well as Jim. Now, I mean, is he as good? Jim has 30, 25 years of experience on him. You know, Tim Walton's
He's
been in
got
this-
10 years.
He's
in
been
that
a
defense.
defensive
but he's been
coordinator,
ten-
hasn't
yeah,
he?
and he was
I
the
mean,
co-coordinator at Indiana.
And
Um,
at Duke,
He
Duke,
called,
Duke,
he's
right?
called
plays
plays
at
for 5 years. Like that's a lot of experience.
You know,
I'm
and-
not sure people recognize that.
It is. He looks very young, so I think
Yeah, that's
that's
probably what-
because he is very young.
Yeah, I mean,
He's like
Very
30
young
He's
is
like
a relative.
38.
yeah, that's what I'm saying. He's a little bit younger than me. If you're saying that that's very young,
You're very young to me, Bob.
No,
Really?
I'm almost.
I was
there.
going to say, I feel old.
I am
I mean, he's
far-
not that much.
I have lived far more days on this earth than I'm going to live.
He's
I
Ryan
promise you
Day
that.
7 years ago,
Yeah.
even with the jet black hair and no
By the
beard
way,
yet.
that is the biggest that is the biggest underdog story ever. The fact that you would have said Ryan Day would have been here for 6 years, all the strife, everything that happened, and on his national championship celebration, he would go up there with a jet black beard and jet black hair still. I don't know how that has happened. He might be a vampire.
The internet says it's a Sharpie.
I'm telling you, I've seen it up close, so I know that it's not dyed. I mean, listen, I've seen Marv Albert up close. That's dyed.
That's dying. Yeah.
But Brian's hair is natural. People try to tell. I'm telling you, no one. I see him every day. Nobody could dye their beard that much.
Yeah.
He would have to wake up
that's very
every
true.
morning
He would
and
do
just
it
dye his
every
beard.
morning.
He is way too
Yeah.
busy.
Yeah.
Nobody's on television more than Ryan Day.
That's what
They would have
Hey.
somebody at the Woody, like, all right, I'm ready for my beard
Yeah.
now.
We've got our. I've got
Let's go.
post game availability.
You're-
the media. The next day, we've got another media.
I'm sorry, I can't make it to availability. I have to see my colorist.
Yeah. Like there would be gray popping up in the jet black.
100%.
And Ryan tries to tell me there's. I'm like, dude, I look at you. There's no gray. Maybe like one or two silver ones you pull out.
Pop.
But that is the big. Like I watched Tress age before my
Oh,
eyes.
100%.
Like,
Well, you did a lot of that.
well, that might have been part of it. But like Tress wasn't under the stress that Ryan has been.
Yeah.
I was the stress, but
Yeah,
not like
yeah. But he was winning. Yeah, he was
societal
winning. And
stress.
it was all good.
Your point is valid, though. Ryan Day was intentionally and over the top
Yes.
complimentary of McArary on Sunday during his hour.
So do
at
you
the
like
podium.
marry him and Tim Walton as like a DC
I mean, I think you
co-DC?
can, but does that not feel? And this is not to
Ooh.
denigrate.
Oh boy.
You know what I'm going to say, right?
Oh boy. Yeah.
Would you just say
I
it?
don't want to think about it.
Would
What's
you
the
say?
denigration?
That just sounds like Matt Barnes and Kerry Combs.
Or let's go back to the 2015 offense. What happened then?
And
Okay, I'm looking at the.
I'm just saying.
I'm just thinking for the defense. I didn't even want to think about the
I'm
2015
saying
offense. That was,
you just won a national championship. Your hotshot coordinator leaves, and then you're like, you know what? Let's just give Tim Beck and Ed Warner the job and see what happens. And I think again for continuity's sake. For continuity's sake, I think that there is an argument to be made that is not a terrible idea. If you go and you bring in, Ryan Day wanted to hire Jason Taylor last year, right, from Miami. Now, you would have the opportunity to have an additional coach, so you can bring in a second defensive line coach to start
and if you're going
preparing
to do,
for Larry Johnson's
if you're going
departure.
to do more of the Jack 3-4, maybe you have him just kind of focus on the hybrid stuff. And then that can be, you know what I'm saying? He can be the D-line and like kind of individually coach those guys.
There are options. Now, without getting into individual names, Jim Leonard is one that
Where is he right
he's
now?
with the Denver Broncos.
Okay.
Ian Rappaport on Monday morning and tweeted that Leonard has decided he's staying in the NFL. Like, he's a guy that I know Ohio State had been talking to in the last week. But as
Notre
far
Dame as well.
Yeah, as far as other guys that are out there, like, there's no one that's outside of Ohio State's purview. And that's where I think things get interesting. Because if you wanted to
Bill
go out,
Belichick.
well,
Nick
maybe,
Saban.
Bring him back. Nick Saban.
Nick Saban.
Get him off the
I
desk.
mean, hey, if you just told Nick Saban you can come in and coordinate our defense for 2 years and get to work with Caleb, you don't have to recruit. I mean, why would you not? Miss Terry loves Ohio.
Alabama Jones. Put that hat on.
Bring it back.
Ohio Jones.
Mr.
Yeah.
Ohio
But
Jones.
Bring him back
So,
to his roots.
I'm a realist, but I'm also a dreamer, and I'm also Homer Berm. It's 2025.
It's 2025.
You're all those things, right?
Homer
Yeah.
Berm.
I'm Homer Berm, and I want Phil Parker from Iowa. That's who I want.
I don't like their defense. It's good, but I don't like it.
How do you mean you don't like it?
I don't like it.
They're
I
one
can-
of the best
I-
in the country
I
all
can
the time
respect-
with 0 good players.
I can respect what they do. I can also respect that, like, I don't like playing in that defense. I don't really like watching it.
Why?
I'm so glad that you
'Cause
said
it's
this because
boring.
he sent
Boring, yeah.
at least 5 Slack messages to
I'm
Bill
just
and I
saying,
yesterday.
he's
about
from
how
Lorain.
Bill
He's from
Parker-
Lorain, Ohio.
I don't debate that.
He
He's
makes
re-
$1 million a year at Iowa. You could pay.
That's $50 million in everywhere else
So
money.
my thing is, like, I can respect him
Everywhere
and say that
else.
he's really good. I just don't. There's people like, hey, I think that person is great. I wouldn't want to marry them. I would say they're pretty. They
I
check,
don't
they
want
check
to
all
marry
these
the
boxes.
guy.
But that's what I would
Yeah, I
be doing.
mean-
And I want to leave, and I feel bad for leaving
that's-
Justin out of this conversation.
you're
but we're talking defense here. Like,
That's what I
Okay,
would be doing. You're
okay.
bringing my
You're a
university. You're marrying.
you're a
them.
defensive guy.
Yes.
Who do you watch and be like, ooh, that looks like a fun defense
I like
playing?
Jim Leonard's is a pretty good defense.
Yeah, but he's saying no.
Okay. Well, honestly, I don't. If you're
Maybe until the next
That is-
bag of cash is dropped down, maybe you can turn
Well,
that
that's
no
what
into
I
a
mean.
yes.
Like that's
So,
what I'm saying. I don't
okay,
understand
and-
why he'd make that.
so here's what's
proclaimed
amazing. There's like a
proclamation.
you have guys on this staff like Larry Johnson, who obviously have coached more games than they're going to coach. You have guys like James Laurinaitis and Matt Guerreri, who are younger than me, who I would define as young in their coaching career, but yet very, very intelligent, great recruiters.
And Matt's pretty experienced.
and great communicators. Yeah, I mean, listen, just because James hasn't coached a long time, like
Sure.
he has been playing football and been
Yes.
involved in football meetings
At a very high level.
for a long time.
Yeah.
Like people dismiss playing experience because like, wow, you weren't a coach. Like, you know how many times I told my dumbass coach, like, call this instead. I watch the same film you do, dude. Like, why are we running these things?
I think that's what Jay-Z was talking about.
But
for
James
Jim
also worked under Al Golden, who Ryan Day,
Yeah.
I think, had a little bit of interest in.
Yeah.
When all these conversations started, I think that once he found out Al Golden was likely going to the Bengals, that was a darn it moment for him. Like, okay, I would have gone. So you have James working for him. You have James working for Jim Knowles. Like,
Yeah.
obviously, I don't think we should discount anyone on the current staff.
Tim Walton is a guy who is a little bit more middling of
He
that.
was an NFL defense coordinator.
Yes, that's what I'm saying. He's been in NFL DC. He's coached in the NFL for a long time. He's an Ohio State alum. He's a great communicator, probably more so than anything else. Like Jim, I love Jim. He's a different dude to talk to. Tim is probably someone that communicates a little bit better. Does he have the intricate knowledge of this particular defense that a Matt Guerreri does?
Or
Maybe
all
not.
three levels of the defense.
Or all three levels. And so that's something we're like, but he does have a great relationship with James because they played and coached together. So like that's what I'm saying. Like there's combinations on this staff that I think work better than maybe the Kerry and Matt Barnes situation.
Or the Ed Werner and Tim Beck. Which
that
didn't matter because Urban was lording over them the whole
Jeez,
time anyway.
those poor guys, those poor guys lording over them. I don't even know if that does the word lording justice.
Well,
I mean, like
they were.
It was the Urban Empire.
They were co-coordinators in name only.
co-coordinator. I mean, he would question them to the point where like they were stuttering to spit out any type of call at the end.
It wasn't fun for them.
It was fun. Like, why are we running this? What do you want to run? I don't know. You're the coordinator. Well, all you do is shoot down every idea I have.
All
By
right.
the way, there's 6 seconds left.
Quarterback
in the game.
power.
Call timeout.
Quarterback power it is.
But
I mean, there was a story that I was told.
how
by
much does Luke Fickell need to make it be the DC at Ohio State
No.
No, gee.
before he gets
Look,
fired at
let's
Wisconsin
go-
after this?
Don't say that. I want my
Oh,
boy
don't.
Luke
Yeah. He's
I've
gonna
seen
have.
that.
He's gonna have a
There
good year. This
there
year.
was
He's
an
going to go
argument.
4-8 this year. He's going to be fired.
He does have a tough schedule.
I don't
up
know.
there
Maybe
this
they
year.
can make Mike Vrabel reconsider being the coach of the Patriots.
That's you said nothing's out of the reach.
Yeah, no.
What about Jared Mayo?
Gerard.
No.
Gosh, that's a freaking. That was. I don't think he wants to coach in college. Guys that are like NFL
He's
guys.
like 37 years old. He's
He
I mean,
is.
former NFL head coach.
I get it. I like Gerard. He's smart.
Saying that there's the book is wide open for Ohio State, and like people want to be lamenting the loss of Jim Knowles, but like it's Ohio State. Ohio State is going to find a great coach, and they're going to be okay.
I
If
mean,
you
bring
needed-
Mark D'Antonio back. Why not? I mean,
Yeah.
he's retired. He's hanging out.
If
Won
you-
a national title here.
Mark Snyder somewhere.
Yeah.
He'll come back.
What about the guy at
Oh.
Pitt?
Narduzzi.
Rusty.
No. Pitt's current defensive coordinator. He's in Ohio. Randy Bates.
Randy
No,
Bates.
I mean, I
Not
thought you were
Rusty
talking
Bates.
like. I mean,
Do you like-
Chick-
do you
Chick-
like the
We're
way
going
that-
after
Chick-
Chick
Chick
Harley. Let's
Do you
go.
like their defense?
Let's go.
Chick just got tired. I do like their defense. It's more like what D'Antonio did. It's kind of a cross between Knowles and.
He's an Ohio State guy.
Yeah, I don't hate that. You know.
See, we figured it out, everyone.
Great.
Everything's going to be fine.
Yeah, 20 candidates. JC,
No matter
who are
The
you
one
picking
thing I
out of
will
that
say
group?
is,
JC?
that I did not necessarily love Knowles' scheme at first, like the deployment of it, but it is effective in how those guys have learned it. Once you learn something that's like that unique, going off of that sometimes, and like you said, are you willing to endure a year of temporary pain and maybe it gets better, or like maybe the guys on staff you have can execute that nearly as well as Jim Knowles. And by the way, a lot of it's the damn players as well.
Yes.
So like
It's weird how much better his defense got and a safety-driven defense when he had the three best safeties in America.
Yeah. And by the way,
Imagine that.
and the D line started catching fire a little bit.
So-
Like Sonny Styles started playing really well at the end. Like all those dudes were playing really good. Jay-Z and I could have got back there and called up some of that now.
I think so. You should have. And the reminder here, I'm glad you brought this up, Erm. Ohio State's going to be fine. What did they do last year when they needed an offensive coordinator? They hired Bill O'Brien and Chip Kelly.
Yeah.
So they can do whatever they want. And Ryan Day and Ross Bjork have proven that they will do what they need to do.
Well, I
get it
mean,
done.
these hires, dude, when you're talking about millions, it's not just Ryan and Ross. I mean, you're bringing old Slapshot in there too, because you got to get big signatures to sign off.
Well, yeah.
I mean, dude,
I think he's
the joke was the highest paid people on like state employees, the men's football and basketball coaches, and now it's like men's football, basketball, and the coordinators.
And the coordinators,
Like, you start like, to go down the line. Like Mike DeWine's like the sixth highest paid guy on that stage.
yeah. No, that's true.
I mean,
But I think that
And about the eighth
Ted
most
Carter
important-
seems to be enjoying the spotlight as well, so he's going to sign off on that. The point is, unexpected, not maybe what Ohio State was wanting to deal with heading into the 2025 offseason, but here they are, celebrating a championship and now looking for a defensive coordinator. They also had to work to keep the roster together, So when we come back for the second half of the show, we're going to talk about that at Roosters. It's a fun, casual joint.
Roosters has been so fortunate. We just want to be able to give some of that back to the community.
They donate to organizations that are near and dear to their heart, and we're so fortunate to have been with Roosters now for a long time.
They always go above and beyond to help support our foundation to further help veterans.
It's just a wonderful feeling to know that Roosters supports the Buckeye Cruise for Cancer.
All the folks at Roosters are just genuinely kind folks, and they want to make a difference.
Thank you, Roosters Foundation.
Thank you, Roosters.
Thank you, Roosters.
Thank you, Roosters Foundation.
Welcome back into Roosters, a fun, casual joint. And I just glossed it over, Bob. But we got these beautiful-looking onion feathers right in front of us. And on Tuesday,
They're the best.
I think they're going to cost $3.
$3.
I can't wait to
this-
take those home and eat them.
A little plucking sauce.
Shake your
Pluck you
onion
sauce.
feather.
Oh, it's got a little horseradish in there, nice and spicy.
Delish.
I think
You
it's
guys
one
know
of
I'm
Jay-Z's favorites.
And one of my favorites.
You guys know I'm anti-onion, but the fry looks
I'm
great on those.
So you
I
don't
am
like
100%
onions?
anti-onion. I hate onions, but I eat the.
But the
you
fry
know what
looks,
out of
the
these.
fry looks great on those. Clearly some
Fantastic oil.
fantastic oil right now.
Yes.
So
Right.
good work.
You know they're getting it done right. So the other part about coming straight home from winning a national championship is that the transfer portal is open for 5 more days, and the NFL draft deadline is 5 days after that. What a fun time to be Mark Pantoni and Ryan Day, isn't it, Berm?
Yeah, let's dive in. So Ohio State lost only 2 guys to the transfer portal.
Is it closed or
It's closed.
It's closed.
So they had last week.
5 days.
Gotcha.
Closed
okay,
until
okay.
April 16th, or for graduates who can enter whenever
Or
they
if
want.
coaches leave.
Or if head coaches leave, not coaches.
well, head coaches.
Well, we just spent 35 minutes talking about a coach leaving. They cannot leave because Jim Knowles left. They can leave if head coaches leave. So, Hero Canoe, Calvin Simpson Hunt depart.
I don't think Calvin Simpson was surprised. Hero Canoe was kind of surprising.
Not a surprise on Calvin. Probably some disappointment because
Yeah.
he was a borderline 5-star kid out of Texas when they
He's
signed
playing
him.
well too. I think he was going to play a decent amount this
But
year.
he's not wasn't going to start.
Yeah.
And especially with the retention of Jermaine Matthews and Davison Benosin, Devin Sanchez coming in, Aaron Scott, etc. It made sense for him to get closer to home in Texas. The Hero Canoe one is surprising because
he was playing.
he was
well.
played a lot in the playoff. And if you look ahead to next year, this is again where we have the conversation about does the defensive alignment change, and do the Buckeyes maybe go to a more of a 3-down front? Because if that's the case, I can see where he might think that there's less opportunity coming for him as a true,
tackle.
as a true tackle. But Hero's also in a really weird spot because
he can't take NIL.
Can't
he
take
can't take
NIL.
NIL.
Yeah, if you want to lob out that accusation that it's because Texas is throwing money at him, like he can't take it.
Yeah,
Well, legally, he cannot take
he
it.
can't take it unless he
Literally.
works outside of the country.
Legally-
and Austin
legally
is
by-
closer to the border.
It is, but like that. This is not an NCAA thing. This is a United States visa thing. Like on a student visa, you can only make like $10,000 a year or something like
Yeah.
that. I mean, it's some
Interesting.
Yeah.
maybe nothing. Like they limit that because he's here from Germany on a student visa. But isn't he an American citizen though?
I mean, he's here on he cannot make.
Berm and I had numerous conversations with him about NIL and opportunities. Like he couldn't do it. They were trying to find other ways that they could make that happen. It was.
So
You got to
he-
go back to
wow.
McDonald's.
So he visited Florida. He's visiting Texas. So I mean, he's going to land at a good spot. But if you look at the defensive tackle situation, I feel pretty comfortable that even if it's a 4-3 or a 3-4, that it's Edric Houston and Caden McDonald
K-Mac.
who you look at and say those are our bell cows, and then you figure it out from there. The young guys, Jason Moore, et cetera. Tywan Malone apparently will be back, it seems. So there's at least depth. It was surprising, though. But other than that,
Because I thought they would have a nice 3-man rotation there with those guys. They were all playing
Yep.
well and played well this year.
but you look at the rest of the roster and you're like, man, I really surprised that nothing else changed. But this is where the April portal window becomes pretty important because a lot of guys are heading into spring going,
To see where
let's
they-
see what
Yeah,
happens.
see what happens.
Well, do you really want to leave a national championship team?
You're not going to get better somewhere else.
No.
So-
And you look at all these guys, you're going to have probably – you might tie or break the draft record with 16 potential players drafted, maybe more. And so, yeah, I think a lot of those guys saw that. And if you're like Brandon Ennis, like you played some last year, you're looking to play more. I mean, you look at, obviously, Carnell Tate, who I think was the big worry of a lot of people, Berman. I know –
That's been going on for like a month, so there was a lot
Yeah.
of worry.
and the fornications that were happening with
Wow.
him. Well, I mean, let's just be real here. I mean, that's I mean, there was a lot of overtures that were made.
It was.
Promises made, promises kept. I don't know.
Made for sure. Kept.
Oh,
That would've been
They
TBD.
didn't get a chance to fulfill those opportunities.
You know, you can look
His
position
girlfriend
by-
goes to Oregon.
Yeah,
I mean,
you can go position by position and see guys that you're like, that's surprising.
I know, like some of the linebackers, like it's like guys want to play.
Yeah.
But
But
now you can just leave and go play somewhere else and probably get paid a lot more.
But if you look like, I don't like to name names, but obviously you already brought up a guy.
Well, Cardinal Tate's name was everywhere.
Cardinals won, but if we're talking in the secondary, we were very surprised that Ohio State was able to, at this point, retain Jermaine Matthews and Davison Igbinosun for another year, knowing what they have coming up. It seemed like an either-or proposition like last Friday, and now here they are, both of them still on the roster. But again, it doesn't mean that much because the April transfer window.
But the April transfer window last year wasn't overly robust.
Yeah, it's pretty underwhelming. Now, it doesn't mean that it will be that way forever, but like the opportunities are not the same. Most of the roster starts to be finalized around the country. There aren't as many spots. You've missed now the opportunity to learn a playbook and get rolling. Like,
also, it's the same. It's an NFL principle now. Like in theory, there's infinite dollars, but there is a finite amount of dollars. And so as you have allocated a lot of your NIL resources, like how much more do you have then in that April window?
Not much generally. Now, would you find some if a Carnell Tate was in there? Like, sure, you probably would try, but I think, and especially now that some of the university is being involved in these contracts, they are for longer periods of time. They are a little bit more strict and airtight. We're going to find out because we're going to find out, right? We're going to find out with Wisconsin and Miami.
We're also in a position where the revenue sharing agreement begins, I think, in June.
Yeah.
So a lot of these conversations are kind of just being kicked down the road a little bit to be like, hey, we can do more once in June. So stay with us. And
that's the case for everybody. Yeah. So it's not like anyone's lying about it. Like they know that there's going to be a kitty of probably, I'm guessing $9 to $12 million opened up for football to be able to spend on. And so,
well, I mean, not to talk politics here, but like there's going to need to be something. I
heard the DOE, those orders issued on the exit of the Biden administration
will be struck down.
Will not be. Yes. No. After having some conversations, those are not going to be adhered to by any of the universities around the country.
Jay-Z, what is the most significant retention on Ohio State's roster?
Oh, golly. I mean, of course, getting Caleb Downs to stick around and, not even really flirt with anybody is huge because he's just one of the best players in America. Sonny coming back for another year, I think was big. I don't know that he was really a huge threat to leave, but he could have 100%. And the NFL is going to look at him and say, all right, we got this guy who's 6'4", blah blah blah. Like they'd have loved his, everything about him coming in to the league. But I mean, I think that's big coming back just because I think that's an area where, we may have been a little,
but that's
a little light.
This is the recipe though. Like for guys who are 3rd and 4th and 5th round picks.
Yeah. That's a great thing about NIL.
You have to bring those guys back if you want to. That's Penn State watched what Michigan did 2 years ago, what Ohio State did this year, and now they're saying, "Hey, we have a bunch of guys in that middle round. Like if we can bring them back, maybe we pay a little more than we wanted to, but it's a whole lot better than trying to replace Zane Durant at Penn State with a freshman, or replace Katron Allen with a guy that has no experience in the offense. So that is the recipe. Sonny Styles is a player that obviously had a really good second half of the year, but he has a long way to go to be the player he can be. And you're better off developing at Ohio State than you are going to the NFL and being a 5th-round pick and maybe not make a roster.
Well, because he can still improve as a football player immensely, and you're not going to get that development at the next level. And so why not pick up on the year you had? You have all the physical attributes, and then put that together in another great year. They can expand your role, and also like you can grow as not just a play. Like get better at what you have. You'll grow as a player as far as adding skills to it, but also you're going to then grow as a leader because like Sonny and Caleb now will be the primary voices like on that defense because those guys will be the ones that are coming back.
There is so much talk about the professionalization of college football, and it's fair and understandable. There is still one little area. We talked about this on last Friday's podcast, Daily, and I want to get your opinion as Ohio guys. Like, how much is legacy still worth? How much does legacy still matter to kids? Because a kid like Sonny Styles, whose father played at Ohio State, whose brother's there, who's now won a national championship, the idea of saying, well, I could leave Ohio State and go be a 5th-round pick and I can make a good living in the NFL. But now you can be a hero for the rest of your life in Ohio. And you might still be anyway, but
And you can wear a Block O next year.
But it still matters, right? Like there is still that sense, and there is still a little bit of the romantic vibe about college football.
Well, he's a Central Ohio guy, and he just watched
What happened?
Another Central Ohio guy. Yeah, that's
a guy who, I mean, Lorenzo, Sonny's older brother, who I think will be a big part of this defense as well this year. I mean, that's something pretty special to play defense out there with your brother, like your literal brother
in the place your father played.
Where your
father played. And you just had a blueprint. Like Lorenzo and Jack played travel baseball and everything growing up. Like one went to Pick Central, one went to Pick North, but they did a lot of stuff together. And like you have the blueprint right there for what it takes to become a hero in the city of Columbus. Like that's it right there. You go out there and you make plays. Like no matter what it is. Like if you're from the state of Ohio and even more specifically the city of Columbus, like there's you love everybody, but it's endearing. Yeah. When you're part of this in the fabric and you talk about that. Like, so I think that blueprint was there. And all of those guys also just watched, you heard, Quinshawn come in and talk about it. Seth McLaughlin's been very, Seth McLaughlin's going to be here rehabbing and training for the combine. So he's going to be around, Will Howard talking about, just how much he's embraced this. And, hell, he's like, Columbus, Ohio, I don't know where my life will lead, but it doesn't seem like a bad place to live to me. Like saying things like that. And maybe a little bit tongue in cheek, but I do think, like seeing guys come back and, Kate Stover's in there working out today. He's rehabbing his shoulder and things, like seeing those guys come back. And they're like, yeah, this is, especially because those guys had been other places, Manhattan, Kansas, Tuscaloosa, Alabama. This actually is a pretty nice place to live. Like it's not a bad spot.
There's still
when you hear him talk about just the university itself and how the people just
love it.
Bring you in and like, oh, you are part of us now. It's that speaks volumes for kids.
How they wrap their arms around you, and then also, like you heard Ryan talking about, like you'll walk back into the building now, and like there's a piece of hardware that'll be sitting in the center, hopefully not for terribly long, but for a while longer, because it gets the primary real estate as the freshest trophy, and that's.
Your team photo is going to be up on the wall. You're going to be able to walk your kids down and say, there I was back in the day.
I'm saying, like, there is something special for Jack to know as he goes on with the rest of his life. Every time he walks into the Woody Hayes Athletic Center, there's going to be a picture of him picking up that fumble against Texas, and it's going to be prominently displayed forever. For a kid from Ohio, speaking still of Sonny, like, that matters. Like, there's an opportunity to make yourself a legend, and that still does carry some weight. And I think when we talk about the professionalism of college sports, like I don't think you can just dismiss that out of hand.
I don't think you do. I mean, I think for Ohio kids, it's always kind of been that way just because you grow up in the state and that's the only college that you really care about. And then if you have a chance to play there, but I think it's ratcheted up a little bit because it just happened to Jack in the way that it did. I mean, like
the grandest example.
I mean, 100%. So she's like, holy, like, yeah, I mean, it might reignite that fire for, Ohio kids, coming through this program.
How often do you guys wear your national championship rings?
I don't wear them.
Never.
No, I haven't. I told those guys.
I'm just wondering.
The ring is really.
my daughters like to look at them. They'll say, what are those up there?
Homer Berm's going to start showing up.
I'll bling out. I don't care. Can I have your ring? What?
I wish you guys had seen him throughout the playoff run. Every time we're at the media days. And they've got the new gear for this game and that game, and like Berm's holding up the camera for the notebook. He's like, "Hey, what are you gonna do with that pullover?"
Lean in, man. Time to lean in. Homer Berm.
Josh Fryer, what are you gonna do with those Rose Bowl shorts?
Like, honestly, I think
that's great.
Those Rose Bowl. Hey, by the way, there were dudes walking out with the. And this is great because I really respected the move because I felt like it's something that I would have done. They were walking out with the locker room chairs.
Oh yeah,
nice.
Because I was like, dude, you're taking the chairs. He's like, they say 2025 on them. They ain't using them next year. I'm like, that's a good point. Yeah. I mean, you think they're going to
awesome.
They're just going to give them to random people that are there working the bowl committee.
People were peeling off the signs at the
Ohio State locker room sign.
Yeah, I mean, listen, it's not reusing. Reduce, reuse, recycle.
Right. Justin says, Sonny, pick another guy that remove JJ and Caleb from the conversation.
Yeah,
and Sonny because we already named him.
Most important guy that will be returning. I guess how worried were we that these guys would be actually leaving?
I mean,
I guess you could have really, in theory, been worried about anybody because like anybody,
except for JJ and Caleb.
Yeah, but like the top 16 guys on both sides of the ball, like
you're gonna shake it up.
Any of those, but
everybody else.
Any of those dudes, like if Brandon Ennis like called up Pitt and was like, "Hey, I'd like to come," they're like, "Sure, how much do you need?" Like, well, okay, that's a little high. Like, let's try to see if we can get there.
Well, then he would just pick up his phone and call any other program in the
That's
country.
what I'm saying. But like, Brandon Ennis played. What?
He would probably call Miami first.
But he wasn't going anywhere.
And that's what I'm saying.
Brandon, seeing him after the game on Monday night, like
all over day, and
he straight up was like, "It's my team now."
Yeah.
All right. Yes.
He made some big plays this year, and
but he didn't play a ton. And there's a guy like, "Hey, I've made some big plays. I could be kind of salty about that." And instead, it's like, no, these guys are awesome dudes. I had great leaders. Like Emeka's gone. Now it's my turn, and I'm going to take this damn thing, and I'm the one that's leading it. I mean, you could say Carnell Tate because they have other guys that are going to be good. Who's number 5?
Mylan Graham, Bryson Rogers. I mean, I
think that Mylan's going to be really good. I think he's going to be great. But like Carnell has played, and that dude had 2 huge catches.
And he had like 65 catches this year. So like he was.
They didn't forget about him. But he just wasn't.
He was like he would be the number. Like his production is number 2 production on just about any other team, and he's good. He'd
number 1 on a lot of teams.
He'd probably be your number 1 because he's just so good. And he had big catches in those games. Like
that's why Brian Hartline made it a point all year long to be like, we don't have a number 3 receiver. We have 3 ones.
And like Carnell's such like a happy dude. Like coming in, like and he could be a salty guy. Like I'm not getting as much. This freshman came in, he's ahead of me. I get Emeka, but I was supposed to be the guy. I'm a big time dude, 5-star out of Chicago. He could have been all that. And he just always dreamed like of playing at Ohio State and loves playing there. Now he's probably going to catch 80 balls this year. And like that guy to me is a culture dude because everybody sees like how much he likes it here. And then for that guy to leave, like, oh man, like that just kind of stinks.
We talked about this on Snap Judgments on Sunday after the celebration, but a guy like Carnell, he turned down a lot of money.
Yes, and that's like a roadmap for other guys. Like
100%.
I'd rather stay here and catch balls from Julian and have
I think that's a key part.
That's a huge
part.
part.
The fact that Brandon Ennis, Jeremiah Smith, and Carnell Tate are staying means that they seem to
be okay with the guy who's going to be throwing them the ball next year.
The guy who is wanting to throw the football said, "I'd rather play with these guys than some other group of slaps." By the way, guard, center, guard, we're in a really good spot next year.
If these 2 tackles can be.
Carson is one of the guys that I picked is like vital for the return.
I thought they said Carson hated people here and he was ready to leave.
Apparently not.
Did he not get in the portal? Did he go back to Wisconsin?
He's still here.
And
he went back to Wisconsin.
He's now set to be a 3-year starter at center for Ohio State. I mean, that's
an unexpected journey.
Yeah.
But
45, 47.
Watching him on those sneaks, like with Will on the final drive, like 48. Get up and give like the push, the first down forward.
3 shows in a row you've said not to talk about politics.
I'm just kidding. I just want to say I think
the DOE thing is real because that's
I understand.
Well, that's important.
That has actual application.
That's valuable for Ohio State to get figured out.
It's just like Ohio. It's everybody. I mean, it's a federal.
I don't care about everybody else.
It's Homer Burr. He only cares about Ohio.
Like they've been Ohio State for the Hero Canoe thing figured out. No, it's a federal law. Like it's a visa.
Don't give a piss about nothing but the Buckeyes.
I get that. Like no one else.
It's going to take some time getting used to public Homer Burr.
I love it.
I like this.
I only know him behind closed doors.
I will say this: like even a guy, like, and really schlegs it up, but a dude like Peyton Pierce who came in.
Oh, wow.
Who didn't really get to play much. We have Arvell Reese, who's kind of the third guy, and Peyton Pierce is going to play a lot of football next year. You also have 2 really good.
His hair's growing back. He's turning into Samson again.
He's good. He is really good. And like, dude, you don't think that SMU was probably trying to get a hold of him? Like, hey, come back down here. We made the playoff. Yeah. We got a ton of money. You can be a hero in Dallas, dude. We got super
Texas
hot
Tech
chicks.
Is spending
lots
more money
of really,
than anybody else.
A lot of really rich folks. Like, dude, we'll get you that Eric Dickerson deal with that car just cruising around.
Pony Express. Remember, Peyton's nickname is Superman. You don't get that for no reason.
He's good.
In Texas.
He's good. Like that's what I'm saying. Like people just didn't see him because Cody. You couldn't take Cody off the field. Yeah. But like he is going to play next year. But like convincing him, and then also like him believing that, and then making sure that you follow up. Like, dude, you're going to get on the field.
He was
watching Simon do. What he did.
He was one of the 2 players that Jim Knowles actually recruited in his 3 years at Ohio State.
Well, that feels like a great place to wrap it up.
So you want to Penn State?
Let's hope. Yeah.
Yeah, the 2025 season is well and truly underway. Celebration's over. Just kidding. Berm wants to keep it going for several months.
Got his championship sweatshirt on again.
Honestly, can I slice it up? There's one other guy too.
Do it.
That
Lincoln Keenholz.
Well, I love Lincoln. Listen, you talk about Julian. I'm not guaranteeing you that Julian Sand is going to be a quarterback next year. Lincoln Keenholz,
he's a heck of an athlete.
He's a great athlete, and he had never really
played
in South Dakota, dude.
I agree with that.
Now he's a quarterback.
He got thrown into that bowl game, so what it is what it is.
Thrown in. I mean,
that was it was a firing squad.
Dragged it.
I'm not even going to say thrown in. It's like, when you
can I just take a delayed game every play because I don't want to get crushed by
you go to SeaWorld and they have the sharks and they just hold it over the water.
I saw that. It's actually Jurassic Park where the thing jumped up.
That Lincoln was just the goat on the string.
But another Ohio guys, we talk about culture guys and different things. Guys, big time, like a 5-star dude that came in here from Kettering Alter. Or in CJ Hicks. And we start talking about the going to the 4 to the 3 down. Mm-hmm. And I think that was part of the allure of him. And he was doing some of that and a lot more pass rush during bowl practice.
A lot of that.
I'm told that he really wanted to play edge. I don't.
And so now you can maybe do that. But for him, and part of him probably staying is being an Ohio guy. And you're
Captain
getting
Buckeye.
Passed up by Arvell on the depth chart. But hey, this is what you probably have always been best at. It's our fault you haven't been utilized like that. Him believing that, and now them falling through. We've got to find a way to get you on the field and let you see what you can do. By the way, if you go have 16 sacks next year, which wouldn't be outside the realm of possibility, you'll probably still be drafted in the top 50 picks.
Yeah. You could have a banger year, and it's going to be fine.
That's Cody Simon's probably going to be a top 3 round player.
He should be.
I mean, which. Last year, he would have been
He's
UFB.
just under 6'3", NFL scouts, if you're watching this. I know you're concerned.
He's got big, thick calves.
You heard it here first.
And he's fast.
He runs. Well, you know why he's fast? Because he knows what to do.
Well, and the tape's pretty good, too. He helped win a national championship. He was the last speaker because he was the Block O for the Buckeyes on Sunday. Yes, the celebration was ongoing at the Horseshoe. It was fun to be there. It was fun to cover it. Got a little wonky with the defensive coordinator not being in there, but that just gives us something else to talk about.
I wish you would have put a cutout of him up there.
One of the big faces.
Yeah,
just held it.
They got a bunch of those left over from 2020 that they're putting in the stands. But it was great to be there. And we're going to keep talking about 2024 and setting the table for 2025 at Roosters all year long. Thanks to Nicole Cox and the whole team at Roosters on Henderson Road for having us in here. Thanks to Justin Zwick, Jeremy Birmingham, and Bobby Carpenter. I am Austin Ward. We'll be back in here next Monday at Roosters. It's a fun, casual joint.